The Prophecy Brothers in color. Starring Brother Man and Brother Champion. They are brothers. They are unorthodox. Mark Sutherland and the Iris Echo.
All right, hey, good evening and welcome to the Prophecy Brothers. I'm Brother Man. Winging it alone tonight. Brother Champion is busy, couldn't join us, but we have another Prophecy Brother with us. As you can see, independent filmmaker Mark Sutherland. Welcome to the Prophecy Brothers once again, Mark.
Lovely to be here, Brother Man. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Well, it's been a while since the last time we chatted and actually saw each other in person was in July in Ohio at the Go Therefore conference.
Yeah.
And quite a bit has happened to us, I think, between then, and obviously a lot has happened in the world.
Yeah.
We've been kicked off Facebook a couple times and then back on. Prophecy Brothers had their channel permanently disabled or deleted. So we've got a new channel now. And Brother Champion likes this. We had a channel that we never used called End Times Warehouse. We're using that right now. So that, if anybody's watching, wanted to know why we're doing that, we had that channel up. And so anyway, if you can, we're trying to build subscribership up again. Please subscribe, like, and share the videos. So Mark, you have a new film project that you've worked on, that you've produced, and it's called The Iris Echo.
Yeah.
And I've watched that, and we're going to have the link on the page in the show notes that everybody can watch it. I think it's about 30 minutes long almost?
No, it's 22 minutes long.
Oh, 22 minutes. Okay.
Minutes
long. All right. Can you tell our audience about The Iris Echo?
Yeah, well, no, great. It's great to talk to you and see you, Steve. It really is. And wow, July, that was a long time ago since we last spoke, and I had the privilege to meet you and your family, so it's fantastic. Plus your brothers, so it's amazing. I'm actually in Dallas. I'm actually speaking to you from Dallas because I'm at the Watchman conference here at the moment. So another wonderful trip across to your great nation. So it was great to be here. So the Iris Echo is a 22-minute drama, and basically it's a warning about communism. So God willing, everyone can click on the link. If they click on the Vimeo link, it will then go to Vimeo, and then they can press play. If there's a problem with that, then we'll sort that out later. So that was made about 3 years ago, and we first shot it 3 years ago. It's taken us quite a long time to sort out various things. So it's got a wonderful soundtrack sung by 24 opera students, which is just amazing. I mean, you know what it's like, where we are trying to make incredible art with a message on a shoestring of absolutely nothing. You know, where's the money is that constant thing that we're fighting. So I'm really proud of what we've done and what everyone's done. And I give a big shout out particularly to one of the directors and the editor of the film, which is a friend of mine, Tristram Gibb. Not that we share any of the same politics, which is rather amusing if they then found out what I get up to. That would be really, really interesting. But the film ends, without giving the sort of plot away, the film ends with stock footage from the Hungarian uprising of 1956, which I had to get from a company over here in the US. So it seems as though God sort of leads to make certain films at a particular time. And I had been very frustrated in the fact that I couldn't get it out there. I'm in the middle of building a new website where I can actually get it on my website. It's on Vimeo. It's not on YouTube yet. But it seems as though we're being led to suddenly make a film, release it at a particular time, as the world is facing this whole discussion or push towards a totalitarianism. And in my opinion, it'd be interesting to see what you think, Steve, and against a one world government. And communism, the fact that we politically across the pond, and I've always drawn the parallels. We had an election on the 12th of December last year, where Boris Johnson, the Conservative Party, won, got a majority of over 80. So beat the Labour Party, prime ministerial candidate, Jeremy Corbyn, an out-and-out socialist, if not Marxist. And the Labour Party, socialist. Lenin said socialism leads to communism. And we are now facing in our country a group of thinking of, the government will pay for this, the government will pay for that, where's the money coming from? And all these other divisions, the whole transgender, the whole thing, the world has gone completely and utterly barking. And we are facing a technocracy, we're facing tyranny, a totalitarian tyranny. And then the parallels with you guys over here and the fact that at this rate, even though it looks like creepy Joe Biden seems to be the demo is going to get the Democratic ticket, but the fact that we've had Bernie Sanders over here, this out and out communist from Vermont, we wonder, did he wait until he was 46 years of age to get a proper job? The man that took his honeymoon, I believe, in Moscow, that goes around bestowing the delights of Cuba, Venezuela, and all the rest, but seems to be a multimillionaire, have a lovely house on the coast somewhere. Maybe that was his reward for standing down and giving Hillary Rodham Clinton the ticket. Nice few fast cars and all this kind of thing, and bestowing the delights of communism. And then we look at the Democrats. Every single one of them is liberal, progressive, on speed. So my little film made that. A load of young people need to see it. It needs to be shared, because suddenly in America, in a way that none of us could have ever imagined, seems to be this love-in with communism. There is this love-in with the government, solving everything. So that is what's going on. So when you ask about the film very kindly, that is why I felt really motivated to make it, even though other members of the crew might not have found that out at the same time. So it seems to have come out, Steve, at a very, very, very timely time.
Mark, can you explain to our audience, how did this whole process start? Did somebody, you as a producer, the writer, approach you about, let's get this made, or did you seek this kind of material? I'm just curious how that.
No, that's very kind of you to ask. Between Lambs and Lions, which is the previous film that I produced recently, where it's about American politics, where we take the Book of Daniel and set it amongst the political machinations of Washington politics. That film is still relevant today. That was written and directed by the same guy who wrote The Irish Echo. And there's a directorial share of credits because the editor has done so much. So how did that happen? I suppose Teddy came to me and said, look, I've written this thing, seems to be, sort of immersed in thinking that totalitarianism and dystopian type projects, aren't they fun to look at? Where we're actually on the edge of trying to bring that about as an actual reality. So he approached me and said, this is the next film I want to make. Would you like to be involved? And I looked at the script and said, yeah, we can shoot it in one room. This could be quite simple. It actually turned out to be a huge mammoth project in one sense, because the editor, the other director really, really pushed the production values. So yeah, I was approached to say, well, you've done it once between Lambs and Lions. You delivered everything that you said you would, Mark. And can we come to you again? And I like the project because I felt it had an important message to say, and then really realized, wow, it's just like the world was suddenly changing on speed around it, and suddenly realized that actually this film is really important. I mean, I'd love to see it as a TV series or whatever. It would be really good. I'm not just saying that because I produced the film, but I feel it's got an important message. So going back to what you're saying, yes, I was then approached to say, could you help get this off the ground?
Okay. And we messaged back and forth, and I told you it reminded me of a Twilight Zone episode where we're in this alternate future, maybe an alternate timeline, because you watch this and you're thinking, well, how could we be to this point? Haven't we learned from history? And so to me, it had that Twilight Zone type feel to it. And so I could see this because you're trying to make it into a series. So I could see this.
It would be fantastic if we could.
Yeah.
And there's discussions to try and have with people. I mean, you know what it's like. Independent filmmaking is profoundly difficult because I'm breaking the first rule of broadcasting, which is to put a crunchy sweet in your mouth while you're trying to speak. So I apologize if suddenly that's just coming over on the microphone. But it's extremely hard to raise money independently for these things. You end up self-financing stuff. And especially if it's got certain messages that, people would agree with, the controllers of mass media would disagree with. But yeah, I mean, it would be fantastic to try and turn that into a TV series. That's what we would love to do, or push that, or make it. I'll have a full length film. But it demands energy to do any kind of project like this. I mean, the hilarity was, we need a soundtrack for this, Mark. I go, yes, that's great. It's fantastic. And we need sort of North Korean marching music. It does exist. I said, well, we're not going to get that. We're not going to get permission to that unless I'm not going to parachute into North Korea and ask Kim Jong whatever, can I borrow some of this? Or I'm not going to go, there is a North Korean embassy in the UK. I don't think they're going to open the door to us. But so that's why we then composed our own soundtrack, because if you want to enter film festivals and all this kind of thing, you've got to have clearance, quite rightly, on all this. So that's why we then created our own soundtrack. We created our own music. We created our own world, our own atmosphere. And how we went about that is quite incredible. And I'm very, very proud of the product. And I'm particularly proud of how we created the music. I mean, there's a really, really important thing here, and it's partly the discussion that's been happening this weekend with a few people. We have to look at what we have in our hand as filmmakers. Who do we know? Who's around us for the creative process when there is no money? And then we step out and we march forward and we make things happen to the best of our ability. That is always an amazing challenge. One day to have the beauty of having money would be amazing. But sometimes you can be restricted by that. Because people think, oh, you've got loads of money, you can buy this, you can buy that. No, if you then start from a position of nothing like that, then you have the challenge to say, right, who have I got? Oh, I know someone who's got drones. I know someone who's got cameras. I know someone that would be really, really interested to help make this. So yeah, that's going to be this huge challenge to us all the time. Plus our particular subject matter and wanting to get it out there. And I want to make some other stories that are not going to be popular with the puppet controllers of the world.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's not going to be popular. So, Mark, the subject matter of this, of course, is a communist-controlled country, wherever this is at. And we're in this right now. Like you said, Bernie Sanders is popular. Looks like Joe Biden's going to get it. And I joked a few months ago that I was hoping that Joe Biden would be the candidate. Not that I like him. I think he'd be entertaining because he'd be a gaffe a minute. And I think it would be very, very easy to, win against him. Although, we'll see. It's going to just depend on, how many people get behind him. But what we have in this country, and I'm sure worldwide, I'm trying to think, the reasons for why are young people going for this? Why does this idea of socialism keep popping up? And I think it's because partly the system that we have right now, we don't truly live in true capitalist, a republic, and it's been slowly, gradually going that way, and so we see this, any failure that we have, and we had the housing bubble the last time, and we see this disparity between the rich and the poor, and that gap keeps growing. And that's not because we have true capitalism. That's because, of course, the elites have come in and manipulated the system.
Yeah.
And so my fear is when the next crash comes, that they're going to see this as a failure of capitalism, or the next recession or whatever. And they're going to see that as, well, capitalism doesn't work. Republic, it doesn't work. We need socialism. And I mean, you have any thoughts on that, or expand on that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And one of the number of reasons why I respect you is that you are a true constitutionalist. You want the Constitution reenacted now and put in place. And of course, and I say this totally respectful, your Constitution has been on life support for a long time. It is on life support. There are people waking up. 63 million of you in 2016 woke up. You voted for Donald Trump. You didn't vote for a priest. You voted for him. There are a number of things that he said he would do that he's been trying to do, unfortunately. And I am speaking to you having just been to hear Kevin Shipp, the ex-CIA whistleblower. And as Kevin has just reminded us, that we are fighting corporocracy. We're in this sort of post-constitutional position for you at the moment. And it can go, of course, either way. We look at Ron Paul. When Ron Paul was running, we look at how the fourth estate, the media, was manipulating that, where he was saying that he was third, if not he was fourth, and all these kind of things. Why am I raising these issues? What I'm raising these issues is that there is no time for complacency whatsoever. And the reason I'm saying that is because we finally left the EU on the 31st of January this year. We have to negotiate a trade deal with the EU by the end of the year. We left a body of global governance. We left a socialist construct. We left a construct that believes in corporations, that is actually against individualism. So your Constitution, the paper that was written, I believe, in September 1787, is in the way of the totalitarian takeover of a utopian dream that the one world system, socialism, wants to push forward. It's your Constitution that is in the way. And of course, Steve, as you and I have discussed in the previous times, and without telling you of all people, as you are all over this, we see the implementation of the Federal Reserve. We see you coming off the silver standard. We see you coming off the gold standard. We see the debt piling up. We see the establishment of the military industrial complex. And as Kevin reminded us today, that the CIA works outside your Constitution, and the CIA is a Council of Foreign Relations construct, as the UN is a Council of Foreign Relations construct. This is not tinfoil hat. This isn't lying. What I will say is, when I have the privilege to come over here to this incredible nation that I feel passionate about, that I have a lot of friends here, is the fact that when you come over here, you're then freely able to discuss all of these issues. You get it. You get globalism. We, God willing, we will fully escape, because we could come on to this. We are now having our deep state moment. So suddenly, in Australia, I think part of my message today, Steve, if I may, is that this is a global battle. In Australia, we've had all these terrible fires and all the rest, and suddenly all the climate change believers are going, look what's happening in Australia. It's all climate change is causing this while it's burning. We've got that. You then look at Canada. You've got Trudeau, as we like to call him, is in charge. This man who is a total globalist socialist who wants a seat on the UN, who is actually not building or pushing forward pipelines coming out of Alberta. There's another big deal that has just collapsed there. They're not investing in the west side of Canada and all the rest, because he has swallowed this whole climate change mantra. We've got all that going on. We've got what we have had within our own country, where for since 23rd of June 2016, I have been constantly talking about the fact until the 31st of January that we haven't left the EU. The fact that we as a nation, up until the 12th of December, we have been at war with our own parliament, where 75% of our MPs did not want to leave the EU. You are at war with Washington, because, with whatever people say, that within there is this two-party system, but they're both the same wings of the same dove. All those issues are real. Then you are fighting the administration. You are fighting to actually re-establish constitutional governance in this country. You are a republic. When you turn on Fox News, and even Fox is using the term to call you a democracy, they do not understand the governance of your country, which was, as we say, which was established in 1787. This is a huge movement that's going on. Rupert Darwell, in a wonderful book called Green Tyranny, lays that out. So in the 1700s, there was two revolutions. One revolution with God in 1776, when you quite rightly whipped our bottoms and gave us a good kicking, because it was, you turned around and said, there is no taxation without representation. We have just lived through that ourselves by coming out of the EU. And then what is fascinating to me, again, as we need to look at this, we then had the revolution in France of, I believe, 1789, without God. And we look at that revolution, we look at what's happening in France, all its thinking, Nietzsche and all the rest, and everything that has come about from that, which has been embedded within the EU, is not good, is not good at all. They may say that, they had the Fourth Republic in 1951, I think. Charles de Gaulle did various things there. But you have a constitution, you have free speech that's defended by the First Amendment, which is defended by the Second Amendment. Until you come to this country, until you speak to people like you and others, until you immerse yourself in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and what this is all about, you never fully understand. Your country is the greatest experiment in people ruling their own nation. And yes, I am passionate about that. And we are on a serious cusp. The president of America has always been seen as leader of the West and as leader of the free world. We have never been at a time in our lifetime, you and I, when we are seeing potentially being on the edge of being less free than at any time in our lives. We look at what's happening in China. This whole thing, as Patrick Woodward wonderfully talks about, brilliant work in regard to technocracy. We look at what's happening in China, this totalitarian system. If you say the right things, then we give you a few more chips so that you can live a life and you might be able to fly or use trains and stuff like that. But if you don't follow the party line, then we will take money away. We will take access We will make your life difficult until you toe the line. So all of these things are a reality. We're facing all of this. And one of the problems, I think, in your country, and it's come up again, is that civics and understanding of your constitution and understanding of how this came about and understanding of why the Puritans fled Europe and religious persecution and why they then established America and how the nation came about. And of course, you and I would sit here, we would talk about Adam Weishaupt, we would talk about the Masonic influences, we would talk about the Illuminati, we would talk about all of that, because that is real. We talk about globalism, we talk about the trilateral agreement, we talk about the Council of Foreign Relations. This is the battle that we are in. But I think a lot of young people, Steve, without being too rude to them, even though there are a lot of young people waking up, they don't understand the history of your nation. They don't understand the importance of your constitution. They do not understand those. They do not understand that phrase that says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Mark, let me, there's a couple things I want to bring up. First being, in your country, in the UK, now that there's Brexit, I'm wondering, have people, has the momentum stopped? Do they think they won and that's it? Or is there a movement still towards freedom in your country as far as getting more freedoms? Can you tell us what the mood is there and where the momentum's going?
That's an absolute excellent question. The 23rd of June, 17,410,752 people, with a majority of over 1 million, voted out. The momentum then was huge. By then, 2 years later, the fact that we hadn't left, the momentum was beginning to really, really flake. People had to really, really hold the line. People were really down over the fact that, oh my goodness me, we're fighting our own parliament. There was an election in 2017 that Theresa May, as they called the then Prime Minister, Theresa May, very stupidly called, and she nearly lost it. She was a few seats away from losing that, and then had to go into shared government with the DUP in many ways. The mood began to change again in a positive way when Boris Johnson then won the leadership of the Conservative Party last year, in the summer of last year, immediately became Prime Minister. But as we then found, the constant blocking by 75% of the MPs was really, people's hackles were really going up. They're getting quite angry and people were having to hold the line. And Boris Johnson was saying, look, the people have voted to leave. We need to leave. So on the 12th of December, that was really encouraging to get an 80-seat majority. Now, what is fascinating in the mood, and a brilliant question, we are now on the edge of our own General Michael Flynn moment. And people might say, wow, Mark, what do you mean? Well, at the moment, one of the things is when we voted to leave, that spurred Steve Bannon to sit down with Donald Trump and say, right, the Brits have done it. We're going for freedom. This is an explanation of how you're going to win the presidential election. We're both sparred off each other. With what happened to Mike Flynn in this country is utterly, utterly disgusting, and it is a total deep state hit job. We are now having that. We are now discovered, of course, I've talked about this over the last few years, that we have our own swamp, and our own swamp is the civil service. I don't find them very civil, and I don't find them doing a very good service. And they are now attacking our Home Secretary who is Priti Patel, who is of an Indian background, who is very successful, self-made woman and all the rest. And she is wanting to really reinforce our borders, put tighter immigration control and all the rest. And there is rumor that she may have asked an awkward question about a report that hasn't come out in regard to the grooming gangs and all those kind of issues that have gone on awfully, sadly, in our own country. So what's the mood? The mood is that we were so pleased that Boris Johnson won. The mood is that we were so pleased on the 31st of January that we left the EU. even though we've got this trade deal. But the mood is this, is that now we have to see a complete and utter root and branch, literally pulling apart the civil service in this country. Since when we joined the EU in 1973, we lost the sovereignty of our nation. It's been very hard for people, friends of mine on this side of the pond, to understand that when we lost the sovereignty of our nation in 1973, we lost our fishing rights and all this kind of thing. The waters around our country, we're not in control of anymore, including right up to the beaches. Foreign fishermen coming in, taking all our fish. That's why the Dutch fishermen and the Spanish, etc., are getting rather angry and rather concerned that we will now put naval ships in our waters and chase these trawlers off. The mood is, and I feel this very strongly, the mood is actually, I think, I believe a positiveness, of excitement. And I think as well, even though the press would like to say that this isn't true, they all think that the people that voted out, all being ignorant, they don't realize that taking their country back is going to be a lot harder and all the rest. Actually, no, it won't be a lot harder. All we got to do is really go through our civil service. Get rid of these people who feel that since 1973, they have been running the country. And how dare the people of the UK vote in a referendum that was given to them, where 75% of 75% of Parliament, if not more, have actually voted to hand the referendum to vote out to the people of this country, of the UK. And I think there is a positiveness. There is the whole rumor that certain companies, they want to come and relocate to the UK and all this kind of thing. They see that there's going to be a benefit for us to be outside Europe. The whole thing of the people movement in regard to the free movement of people in regard to the EU, that is going to be controlled. But there is a fight going on, as you have had over here. There are all these Council of Foreign Relations trilateral people all the way around the President of the United States. You and I, quite rightly, as the John Birch Society has raised, as the New American has raised, we will be very concerned about, the new NAFTA and GAFTA agreement, which is Mexico, Canada, and the America trading deal. You and I will be very concerned about that, quite rightly. So back home, we have got to be aware of the Tavistock Institute and all of this. We've got to be aware of a group called Common Purpose, set up by Julia Middleton, which under a Tony Blair government had its own embeddedness within the government. And Common Purpose, quickly, is basically neuro-linguistic programming of the elites, neuro-linguistic program of future leaders that think they are the leaders of my country, that we're going to lead the country in a post-nation nation. Unfortunately, Trudeau in Canada uses that phrase, as he says, Canada is a post-nation nation. I've never heard of anything such. I've never heard of such rubbish. When we think as Christians, as committed Christians, as Bible-believing Christians, don't hide that at all, and nor do you. And we go back to what the Old Testament says. Nimrod, I'm going to build a Tower of Babel, and I'm going to attack God and get rid of God. And then God deals with that and then divides all the people up into separate languages, and then nationhoods begin. No, God will judge us. When Jesus returns, we will be judged individually, but also the nations will be judged. Are we going to be a sheep nation, or are we going to be a goat nation? So maybe this is a long-winded way of saying, I actually think at home there is hope. Boris Johnson has a very, 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 very interesting advisor called Dominic Cummings. Dominic Cummings was very much involved in Leave EU and all this kind of thing. Dominic Cummings wants to completely carve up the civil service. They are also, our government is talking about defunding the BBC from the public purse, which I think needs to happen, because many, many people, I can't stand it. I can't, many people are fed up with the bias. Remember that one of the reasons why the Labour Party lost is because it has been insulting its electorate. It's been insulting the people that have voted for it for a century, and it insulted its voter base. A lot of its voter base in the Midlands, in the middle of my country, from London and up north, voted to leave the EU. And they were calling them, bigots, racist, ill-informed people. And they were insulting their voter base. No wonder in the last election last December, they got an absolute caning. Now, like over here, and Boris knows this, we've got to try and unify as a nation. And those people that voted to remain and believe that we should be in Europe and all the rest, we need to do the best that we can to win them over. And if we can't win them over, when the country starts to stand on its own 2 feet and do well, then God willing, they will benefit like that. It's exactly the same over here. Whether if a load of people, never Trumpers didn't vote for Donald Trump and all this, it's not about the personality. But at the end of the day, we look at the difference between Trump and Hillary Clinton. Personally, no competition. No competition. So you've got that over here. We need to see the country united. So answering the question, I actually think that the atmosphere has changed. I really do. I would say from a spiritual point of view, that there was something palatable in the change on January the 31st when we left. And for those people that are spiritually discerning, I believe that and I'm not, saying I'm going to any great shakes. I don't mean it in a rude way, but I do believe that it was something that you could feel. It was amazing. I mean, there were 100,000 people, I believe, that went to Parliament Square. I didn't go that night to celebrate us actually leaving. And of course, the Remainers were trying to play all that down. But we have got our fifth column inside our country, which is the civil service, which is the media. And we have got to tackle that. Remember, the civil service, of course, they're government employees. They've got pensions that I could only dream of, and at times lovely salaries I could only dream of. But they are supposed to be servants to the people. But no. They're saying, well, we tell the people what to do. And of course, between when I saw you last year, between July and the election of December 2012 last year, and before that, there was this whole debate about what the role of Parliament is. MPs thinking that their role is to tell people what they think is best for them, which is not what they were voted for. They were put in to the Parliament to do what the people asked them to do, what they voted for them to do. So there's been this huge, if we hadn't have left on the 31st of January, Steve, our democracy in our country, and we are a democracy, would have been ruined. It would have been, that was it. It was over, completely over. We would have been in tyranny. Oh, so we give you a vote, you vote, we ignore it. And remember, the EU have done this all the time. The EU do this all the time. We allow people to vote in a referendum. Oh, we don't like it. Could you vote again? Oh, we don't like that. Could you vote again? Could you keep voting until you come up with a result that we approve of? That is not democracy at all. If we live by that particular code of conduct, that is not democracy. That's one of the reasons why your founding fathers, I believe, were extremely concerned about democracy and what it actually meant.
Is there any talk then? And I'm sorry, is there any talk then in your country about? Because in a democracy, there's always going to be this back and forth. I need to take control of the government so I can punish my enemies and get what I want. And really on both sides. I mean, that's what the democracy is. Yeah. And we really saw that in this country, I believe, unless it's just when I woke up to it, was when Obama became president, because there was this feeling in this country, the side that was slighted has control of the government. Now it's time for us to get revenge. Yeah. And that's a very bad precedent to set.
Yeah.
But is there any discussion in your country as far as what the role of government should be, and a discussion of, yes, we're voting our people in, but we need to start rolling back government because we know at some point the other side's going to get in and they'll use that monstrosity against us. Did you kind of get what I'm feeling? More of an individual freedom and liberty.
I mean, the wonder, absolutely. It's very interesting because we have a wonderful historian in the UK called David Starkey, who's absolutely brilliant. And he said that when we voted to leave the EU, it was our second Brexit. Our first Brexit is when Henry VIII left the Catholic Church and established the Church of England. And there's a lot of interesting parallels there that make a heck of a lot of sense. There is discussion. There is discussion about the House of Lords may be reformed. They maybe even be abolished, some people are throwing around. And I don't blame them. 99% of the House of Lords are Remainers. Like 99% of the House of Lords, love Europe. 99% of the House of Lords are afraid to have very, very important discussions about the ideology of political Islam. And if you have that discussion, oh, no, you're being a racist bigot and you're misinformed. Well, I would say to them that they are misinformed. There is a discussion in regard to that. Now, what's interesting is that the Conservative Party have put forward a number of big things about public spending and all the rest. They are actually looking at the Midlands and the North, where there hasn't been so much spending going on, as it's so sort of southeast and London basis. And they're turning around and saying, no, we've got to put some infrastructure projects. We've got to do this in regard to regeneration in these areas, because these people have actually had the courage to actually vote for us. That's what they've done. They are voting for us. To give you an illustration, there's a seat. There's a seat, a parliamentary seat of Sedgley in Yorkshire. It has been Labour for years and years and years, if not, maybe a good minimum of half a century, if not more. And it turned Conservative. I think it may be, for the first time in years. So the Conservative Party, and this is the other debate, this is the other thing, are they a true Conservative Party? I've always felt that Theresa May was a socialist in a blue coat, because also a progressive with some of the things that they were pushing forward. They're not conserving anything. So there is a fight going on also within the Conservative Party. There is a massive, within the intelligentsia, there is a huge pushback in regard to saying, right, we need to look at some of the issues. We need to look at, the whole thing of our own democracy and all the rest. And if we're saying of the left and the right, on the right-hand side, intellectually, like people like Douglas Murray, people like Melanie Phillips, etc., and others, Peter Whittle, others, there is and David Starkey, there is an intellectual pushback from what we would concede would be the Conservative side. That is an extremely comforting, extremely encouraging what's going on. And these people are really writing articles, getting out there, picking up their cricket bats and knocking the cricket ball out of the park. We're starting to really trying to get to grips with important issues and challenge, this whole PC woke nonsense. But coming back to common purpose, which is embedded within our civil service, which has got a mindset of saying we are going to rule the country in a post-nation nation. Some of that is beginning to be exposed. Absolutely. In other words, like over here, are you for the Constitution of the United States? Do you actually believe in your nation, believe in your country? A lot of people back at home who are like ruling elites, they don't believe in the nation. They believe in Europe. In other words, I'm trying to think of the person who wrote this article, but the article is between describing people as somewheres and people as nowheres, and the nowheres would think that they could live in any part of the world, any part of the world, and all this kind of thing, where somewheres actually say, well, we believe in our nation, we believe that this is where we live. And we have discovered by leaving the EU, but also policies that have gone on, especially in regard to migration, is that these things have been set in motion a long, long time ago, but it was never, ever, ever explained to the people of these individual countries. So I'd like to believe that people are being given permission to critically think again. We have a strong entrepreneurial bent in this country. We had the Industrial Revolution, for crying out loud. It took the gospel around the world. We traditionally are a nation of shopkeepers and all this kind of thing, small businesses. We have got to rediscover that. And I believe that we will do. And we have to have a positive spirit. We have to learn from your nation. Whatever people may think of the condition of your great nation, one of the things that you do have, and why I love America, is a can-do attitude. We will try and get this done. We're going to try and solve this problem. And we need to find that again within our own nation, Steve. And I am actually encouraged. I believe we've got to believe in ourselves, and I believe passionately that we will.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. People in your country said, well, you didn't say we want breakfast or Brexit, not breakfast. Breakfast would be good, but Brexit, and we can just go back to go being asleep or whatever. So I'm glad that momentum is going. One of the problems that we have here, and people aren't going to like me for saying this, but the conservative Christian movement here in America has gone to sleep. And here's the reason why. They've put too much faith in one man, Donald Trump, because we've got in this country, we're really into this left-right paradigm, and of course Hillary was so bad, and everybody has hated Hillary, feared Hillary for years, that everybody went to sleep. Oh, Hillary was defeated, and then. The attacks on Donald Trump, I think a couple of things have happened, and I don't know if I'm not saying this was planned, but boy, I think the elites have caught on to this really quick, that attacking Donald Trump has served a purpose, that the conservatives have moved and the Christians have moved their focus to defending Trump instead of concentrating on the issues. And the reason I say that is because under Donald Trump, the debt has continued to go up. Red flag laws. He made a comment about, take the guns first, due process second. He appointed Bolton. He had Jeff Sessions, who was for civil asset forfeiture. And that is where the police can take your property, the government can take your property under the suspicion of your property is a crime. He signed the NDAA. I mean, there's been some things. Now, this is not. Well, I'm going to criticize somebody here, but it's not so much a criticism of Trump. It's a criticism of the side going to sleep, thinking that our guy's in, we can sit back and let him take care of everything. And I just feel that this country, we need. I think as a Christian or even a conservative, I think we shouldn't identify with a party. Now, if you still want to vote Republican or you want to vote for a certain way, great, but don't feel that when you identify as something like that, I feel that you then you're yoked to them, and that's where the partisanship comes in, and you feel you just have to support whatever because you're a team player. I think our side needs to say, okay, let's support Trump when he's doing something right, but we need to be elected. We need to continue the fight. We need to push on something. If we don't like that the debt's so high, or we don't like certain things, let the president know. I think a good person, I don't know, and Rand Paul is not really he doesn't identify as a libertarian, although he has some libertarian principles. I think he has a good approach to it. He will come out, and when he agrees with the president on something, he'll fight for him and stand for something. But yet he will also say he doesn't take it personal. He doesn't personally attack the president. He'll say, well, the president and I disagree on this. Here's why I think the president's wrong. And he will put a policy out there. And I think, our nation, we lost that momentum. I think a lot of people just on this side have thought, hey, we beat Hillary, let Trump take care of everything. I don't know if you disagree with that or agree with that, but I just see that where people are not, they're not fighting like they did. And if they are fighting, it's to defend a person and not necessarily certain principles.
In many ways, I'm going to agree with you. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why I'm going to agree with you is because complacency is not an option. We must be not afraid to hold this administration's feet to the fire. Everyone is saying that. We've had Russia. We've had Mueller. We are seeing, AG Barr. Why aren't you doing a load of perp walks with various people? Why aren't we seeing Hillary Clinton in prison and all the rest? I don't actually think we will do. I don't think that will happen, as Kevin Shipp has laid out in many ways why that won't happen in regard to the deep state and the protection, which is a shock to you and I. However, some of that, it's an awful thing to say, I don't mean it as rudely or as we mustn't get distracted by that, because we've got to do whatever we can to hold these things to really seek the re-election, to me, of Trump, but to not just turn around and go, great, you're in, we all take our foot off the gas. No. And I'm saying that from someone who's outside, and in many ways I feel very, very American, because I'm involved in this fight, because I know what I passionately believe in what your country stands for. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, when we're seeing Project Veritas filming undercover, again, with, if Trump wins, we're going to burn down Milwaukee and all this kind of thing. This is irresponsible. They're turning around and saying, well, we are communists. We're going to riot. We want all the Trump supporters in a gulag and all this kind of thing. And we remember the warnings of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, where he wrote a book about that. I believe he even came to Congress in 1972 and warned Congress about these things. As Khrushchev said, we are going to undermine you from the inside, basically, as a comment he made in 1956. That's why, and I'm not afraid to go there. And my dear friend Alex Newman, who's written about this in regard to the New American and the John Birch Society, I'm not afraid to go there and say, the New American, this American deal, the UMMC, blah, 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 the replacement of NAFTA and GAFTA, this deal that's got so many pages in it. I think it's got more pages maybe than the Bible, and who has actually read it. This is not good. This is not good at all. We have to hold these people to account. Why is the debt going up and up and up? But on the other hand, I'm profoundly grateful that he's there. The attacks on him personally are unbelievable. The attacks on his family are unbelievable, and we have never seen anything like it. Yes, we have to hold but Rand Paul, you're right. Rand Paul at times makes some very, very important comments, and he is extremely polite and very, very tactful. But he is right to say, well, I'm very, it's very good the president has done this. I'm not very happy about this. It isn't just party for party's sake. It's quite rightly, you've got to hold people to account. And the other thing is, Steve, and having spoken to someone today here at the conference who is actually running for Congress, wonderful, brilliant, ordinary, hardworking American who is running for Congress. Your system allows that. So instead of us moaning about the system, then people have got to step up and run for Congress. And one of the biggest things that's happened in the evangelical community, or the evangelifish community, as Dave Coach talks about, is that Dave Doublemeyer talks about, is the fact that over the last 30 to 40 years, there's been an abdication of people voting, participating in the vote, participating in the political process, who are Christians. And they shouldn't be doing that. If you do not like the policies that are being enacted in Washington, then get involved, see if you can run for Congress and get in there. And I know it's not easy. I know it costs money. I appreciate that. I've got a dear friend of mine running in Oregon, I think in District 9, Joe Ray Perkins, running for the Senate. These are very, very ordinary, hard-working Americans. And I just ask anyone else to stand up and run. Run for office. Do your 2 terms of 8 years and leave. It's about, Steve, it's about engaging, isn't it? It's about getting involved in the school board, getting involved in all these things, and actually engaging and holding people to account, the little people, but you're actually big people, holding people to account on the ground. And Christians as well, they've gone, oh, we're going to abdicate how we feel to this body, fight for the family. I'm not having a go, but I'm just saying, or any other bodies, and thinking they're going to go to Washington, they're going to solve all this for us, they're going to stand up for us. Isn't it fantastic? No, they have not done that, or they've been duped. They haven't seen certain progress.
You brought something up, Mark, that's a good point that I was going to bring up, and you said school board.
Yeah.
Congress is, that would overwhelm a lot of people, our viewers watching that, but locally they can get involved in something. They could run for the school board. They could run for their council in their city. They could do something locally to start standing up to this and acting locally. Here in Indiana, where I'm at, and I'm assuming it's like this nationwide, but at least where I'm at in the city, you don't pick a political affiliation for the school board. So you can just run for school board and nobody needs to know your affiliation. And Absolutely. That makes it easier for school board, but you can start rolling back some of the stuff that are attack on the children by becoming part of the school system, by becoming part of the school board.
Yeah.
Or something similar. You could do something similar locally.
Yeah. Yeah. Or in fact, take your kids out of the state education and maybe start your own schools and stuff like that. I mean, there are 2 sides, of course, understandably 2 sides to this, as Alex Newman has done this incredible work and exposing people like Dewey and the whole progressive socialist infiltration of your school system. For us over here, our universities to me are not, or certain schools as well, they're not like, they're propaganda. I just find them left-wing propaganda. Yes, I've been there in my own sort of beliefs where you've then moved from the left to the right. You've woken up about a number of things. You see the programming. Oh, climate change, the world's going to end in 30 years and all this kind of thing. And this push and the programming. And before anyone says, well, what do you mean, Mark? Well, I know I'm fully aware of certain things that have been shown in primary schools and junior high to certain individuals at certain schools. I'm fully aware of that. We have to, Stephen, we have to engage. We have to engage. We have to, it's like me, I write to my member of parliament. I'll ask them about certain things. Maybe I should run for office back home, as we'd say. But because I don't come from a certain family, a certain stock and all the rest, it's slightly different. And maybe I'm not going to get chosen as a member of parliament. Who knows? Maybe I should think about that. But you're right. We need to be writing to our members of parliament at home and holding them to account, going on the school board, getting involved with things as much as we can. Yeah, that is what we should do instead of going singing Kumbaya on a Sunday. It's all okay. We've got our relationship with Jesus, which is what we need, not, undermining that. But to turn around and say, well, it's okay, we're all going to be raptured out of here and the whole world can go to hell in a handcart. No, it's not. We're called to stand. We're called to fight. We're not called to abdicate our responsibility. And because I care passionately about your nation, and I've been with people this weekend where I am now who are taking their responsibility very, very seriously.
Good. Well, Mark, we need to wrap up here. I think 2020, and I'm sure you feel this way too, is going to be a really, I'm trying to think of the word here, but it's going to be a year. There's going to be a lot going on. And
Yes,
what we're seeing now, I think that there's going to be a recession this year. I think the coronavirus, and we didn't even touch on that, but I think that's what's going to prick the bubble here. And what my fear is that conservatism, capitalism, whatever is going to get the blame. And if that does happen before the 2020 election, then we will get a full-blown socialist. Maybe with Biden, maybe what they're hoping for is that they're really not hoping to win, but they're looking maybe for 2024. I mean, who knows? But there's going to be a recession, and they're going to blame capitalism. They're going to blame conservatives. They're going to blame Christians on it. So,
well, the fact that there's been these sort of throwaway comments of trying to even blame Trump for the virus, so for crying out loud. But I think we need to look at here. This is the important thing. If you then move so much of the world's manufacturing to one country, maybe that should start to raise some alarms, some very, very big alarms, that we can't necessarily have a country manufacturing goods and have low wages. We're going to have to look at that. Maybe more and more, we're going to have to bring the factories back to America. We could even argue, why did these companies do it in the first place? And maybe they should have been done under the Logan Act and un-American activities by taking all the factories to communism, to the enemy of capitalism. What is all this about? Which is why it raises that whole thing of totalitarian technocracy and everything. I pray in many ways that we do not have an economy. I mean, it seems, with what's going on with this virus, on one level, don't necessarily want to get into that, but on one level, but it seems suddenly very convenient, hasn't it? Is it that it's coming up? There's an election of the president, and then we can say, "Oh, we're having a recession because it's you, President Trump." No, I don't think the virus is his fault whatsoever.
Boy, there's a lot of I could really get off on tangent, and we've already talked for a while on this virus thing, but there's been rumors about, or not rumors necessarily. I think some scientists have questioned whether it's been manufactured. But that's going back to the China thing, you're right. We have to really look at why so much industry has moved to a foreign country. Federal Reserve has a lot to do with it because of inflation. It's made labor higher over here. Also, our regulations, and really it's on freedom scale to start a business in the United States. It's much easier to get a business up and running somewhere else. We've made labor and business very expensive here. So we'll get in, another topic for another show, but you're right, Mark, we need to look at that. Let's go back as we end up here, the Irish echo. And, something that I thought of here, our viewers, after you watch it, maybe launch, if you like this and you like the message that Mark put together, let's go old school. Certainly share it on social media, but maybe have a watch party. Invite people over to watch it, make it an event, have a discussion about it.
That's very kind of you. And please watch Between Lambs and Lions. Continue to watch that. It's all relevant. It's all relevant in this election year. And I'd also say is get out and vote, get engaged, find out about the issues, and get engaged to make sure that what you want in this country, which is freedom, continues actually to exist. And if you don't know the history of this nation, go and learn about it. Go and learn that maybe why Steve and I we're passionate about this nation.
Amen. Well, Mark, you and I I think we have the same vision of where we want our countries to go and where we want people to go, and what, of course, as Christians, we want everybody to be saved, and we want people to repent. And, we're not thinking of here just of the earthly life, but we're thinking of the afterlife as well. And
absolutely,
as we do this, we need to spread the gospel message, and ask people where, when you die, where are you going to go? Maybe thought much about that, and
absolutely,
refer people to the Bible, get them involved in a church. So I think we're the same way on that. We might have a little disagreements on exactly, what the best way to go, what the best way would be. Like if we're going to a trip and you and I were driving somewhere, and we take our map out and we'd say, well, I think this is the quickest way to get there, but we both know the destination we want to get. So
absolutely,
I think we all need to work together. Whether we have a little different way of getting there or not, we're on the same team, and we need to make sure that we make things better for both of our countries and work together.
This is a global fight. That's what I would say. This is a global fight, and we all need each other, and we need America. We need your prayers. Please pray for the UK, pray for Europe, pray for Australia, pray for Canada, and we're praying for you. Just the fact that it's incredible that technologically we can join. It's an absolute pleasure and a real privilege that you and I, on those occasions we talk to each other, we can meet. And it is a real privilege. And I do not take any of these platforms for granted whatsoever. Because we desperately need each other. It can be very, very isolating at times, and it's great what you've just said, and I applaud you for that, in the fact that we may not totally fully agree on certain minutiae of certain things, but we also know the direction that we really want to go in. And at the end of the day, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and life. No one gets to the Father but through me. And this is real. We are in a huge global battle. And if you don't know Christ, then go and know Jesus. Go and repent and get down on your knees and before God and sort that out as fast as possible.
Everybody pray for Mark, pray for our countries, and pray for guidance in our lives. And that we're doing what Jesus wants us to do and in our daily lives. And if we do that in our daily lives, that will help change the country, help change everything. So, well, everybody, I'm going to have the link for the Iris Echo there again. Share it on social media. Have a watch party somewhere. Go to your local library, invite some people, make an event out of it. You can get a projector there and project it on that. Back when, I know I keep saying we're going to end up here, but back when I was a Ron Paul delegate and we were doing that, we would have meetings at the local libraries and show Liberty films.
Brilliant.
And,
Brilliant.
It's the same thing here. They could have a Liberty party and show Lambs and Lions and show Iris Echo and have a discussion about it. Just share that message.
Thank you very much. And then what they could do is phone me up and I'll come along and I'll speak. I'll speak from the UK and say, why did you make this? That would be an absolute.
Yeah, that would be have a watch party and have you speak. And you can wear one of those nice shirts that you have. You always have a great shirt, Mark.
Thank you, Steve. The collection's growing. I deliberately wore my fireworks shirt today.
Yeah, like that. All right, well, everybody, we are gonna end up here. Thanks for watching the Prophecy Brothers. Remember, we have a new channel now. The first channel got deleted. Please like, share, subscribe. Go to Mark's channels, like, share, subscribe. Thank you, everybody. God bless, and see you next time.
God bless. Thank you.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel.